Good morning, everyone. We have sufficient participation for now, so let's start with the topic. Now, I can go finish up PHP also, but before that, we'll go through XML because after you understand what is XML, in PHP, we'll go and see how we can create and parse an XML. So that's why I will hold PHP for a while and we'll start with XML. Uh, Today's lecture will be mostly concept based. So all you have to understand XML fully and how XML is created, what is XML namespaces, what are the different components of an XML, how XML is parsed theoretically. Theoretically, we'll see tomorrow using PHP. Then what is XML well forness and how do we validate an XML? So all those things we'll go through one by one. Okay, so let us start with XML. So before I introduce XML, we'll go through types of data. So there is first thing is structured data. So structured data basically it is a data um, which can be parsed by a machine. Machine I mean to say is a computer. It is organized in a well-defined structure like table, XML, JSON, all those are, or array, structure. So all these things are structured data. Okay. Now, this was a structured data which is readable by a machine directly, like this tabular form. Now, second one is unstructured data. So data is organized in an arbitrary form. So there is no way to know um, what portion is what. Like if it is an organized in a table, we can know that, okay, this is the name column, all names are here. This is the mobile number, all mobile numbers are here. But suppose that there is someone's resume, okay? Now from that resume, it is difficult to fetch all the information. Though there are machine learning techniques which have been employed for resumes, but you cannot apply them to any arbitrary document. Okay, so like so there are different kinds of resume, and it is it's not only about resume, any meeting report or any kind of like tender documents. So it is very difficult to fetch the information from that because it's totally unstructured. Now, the third thing is that data is in between the structured and unstructured. So let us take an example, our web HTML. Now in HTML, if you see, many things are can be directly parsed, like images, anchors, um, title of the HTML. Okay, but if you see inside paragraph, if I write multiple things, but can I pass data from there? No, it is very difficult to get data. So suppose in a paragraph or in a div, someone has written his life story. From that life story, can we? Is it possible to parse information like from where he graduated or what was his first job? Or what are his mobile numbers. So it is quite difficult. So though a web page is partially structured, but not fully structured. So this kind of data is called semi-structured. Now in unstructured data, not only documents, there are many things, images. So it is difficult to parse images or get any information from images. Nowadays, some detection algorithms are there which can detect a person or maybe a bird or something, but it cannot fully detect the environment or the settings, all those things it cannot detect. Then there are like x-ray documents are there. So all those documents they contain some text and graphics, and it is difficult to parse information from there. So this is three types of data: structured, which is in form of a structured data storage like table, struct, XML, JSON. So it is directly readable by the machine. Then there are unstructured, which is free text and images. It's difficult to extract information from that. And then finally semi-structured, which is somewhat structured, like a web page, title, image, anchor. They are from there you can predict what is that. But then there are some unstructured part, paragraph, div, from where if some information, written information is there, so it is difficult to fetch information from that. So that is called semi-structured data. Now, forms of data interchange. So, so basically we are running towards the data interchange. So yesterday we already saw one data interchange method, JSON. And we saw in fact, we saw it in practice that in how in Ajax we can transfer data using JSON and similarly receive data on the JSON, again send data from the server side and receive on the client side. So both using PHP as well as JavaScript, we saw how to send data and how to receive data. So that was one data interchange format. Now, so just to build background. So if we want to share data between the same application, so we use function arguments or parameters. So we pass parameter from one place to the function and then function returns some data. So that is how data interchange happens within the same application. Now, if we want to uh, we want to interchange data between two applications on the same server, then we use shared memory. So data is written on a shared memory and both the application can read from that. Now the question is, how do we transfer data from one server to another server? Okay. Now there are a few methods, like we can use data files, like XML is there, or JSON file is there, or even CSV file is there. Then we can directly use HTTP for sending data. And then finally, one is a remote procedure calls, in which one application on one server can directly talk to another application on another server, similar to like they were locally accessing each other. So this is these are the some of the data interchange format within same application or within same server or across the servers. Now our focus is on um, data files. So how do we transfer data from one server to another? And there can be multiple ways of doing that. So uh, like data files, we can use XML, we can use JSON, we can use CSV, but our focus will be on XML today. Now, we already talked about markup languages in HTML, that markup is some metadata information along with the actual data. And this markup is like, in case of HTML, this markup tells the browser how to format and display the page. Okay. Uh, Please mute yourselves. You can go to settings in your application, and there is the option to start your participation with muted audio. Okay. So so meta markup is nothing but a metadata information which is there with the data, and which like in HTML case, it tells the browser how to format and display the content. So this is an image, you display like that. Now, there are different types of metadata we have already seen, like CSS is there, HTML is there, body is there, IMG is there, form is there, input is there. Okay. So a lot many markups are there in HTML. Now, different type of languages support different type of metadata. So we have already seen HTML that it has a well-defined set of tags. So it has HTML, it says body, head, image. It has body. So that's there. So different type of markup languages support different type of metadata. Now back to our XML. Now XML stands for Extensible Markup Language. Now it's a very simple, really simple markup language, and it's provide hierarchical structure to the data. We have already seen HTML, and we already established that HTML is also hierarchical in structure. So basically it's a inverted root structure where HTML is the root, and then it has head and body, and then inside body we can add a tags, and inside head we can add tags. So in that way, it's a hierarchical structure from top to bottom. Now, what XML, how XML differs from HTML, that in HTML, we have a defined set of tags. Okay. So like we have head, we have body, we have HTML. We cannot change that. Okay. So like instead of body, if we use dead body, it won't work. So there is a need of extension to that. So here comes XML to the rescue. So in XML, we can add any user-defined markup. So we can add any tag that we want, and it need not be there in a defined bag. Bag means some kind of storage of HTML tags. So it need not be from that bag. And it can be extended to capture many different types of semantics. Okay, so not only for web pages, so I can create a markup page for implies. I can create for like sales. I can create for anything like production. So it's not limited to one kind of purpose or semantics. It can be extended to any type of semantics. So, okay. So why XML is important? So we already discussed that there is one data interchange format, which is CSV, where data is separated through comma. So like you can see here in the example, a lot of data is there, but it is really difficult to make out what what is the type of the data, or any data is there, like 2574 is there. So what does it represent? Does it is it that person's Aadhaar number? Is it his PAN number? Is it his user ID? Is it his employee ID? So it is really difficult. And now somehow, if you even if you figure out that, now between 36 and 35, really it is quite difficult whether both are his age or what. So in CSV, it is most important to know the structure in prior. So you must know what is the structure, or means what data has to come after what. Now, if we add the headers, like in table, so we add columns to define what type of data it contains, then it becomes easier. Okay, so now we'll move to XML. So first thing is, we already know that XML is similar to HTML. So how do we write an XML? It will be similar to HTML. Only thing is that we can add our own tags. So we do not have to use the existing HTML tags. We can define our own tags. Now, before, I think I have already explained most of the things, but still we'll go through one by one. So first thing is tag. So tag is basically the markup which is between the angular brackets. So that is the tag. So there is a starting tag and there is a ending tag. So we already know that. And then there is attribute. So attribute like for any tag, we may add attributes. So like here, ID equal to C tag, this is the attribute. Then we have element. So element is basically a start tag, end tag, and the content. So these three things are um, these three things combined together form a element. Next one is entity reference. Now, really, I did not add entity reference. Let me add it. So I had mentioned earlier that in some characters, special symbols or characters, either they have a special meaning. Okay, so like this less than bracket, less than, or this greater than symbol, it has a well-defined meaning that it will be used for denoting the tag. So now, if I want to use this for some other purpose, like I want to write a code in which x is greater than y is written, if x is greater than y. Now it is, we cannot do that because in that case, it will treat as the reserve word. So that's why for those kind of symbols and symbols, some entity references has been defined. So entity references has been defined using ampersand and a semicolon and in between some text. So it will depend on what symbol we want to use. So like in this example, we have used copyright symbol. So ampersand copy and semicolon. We have seen other, like for spacing, we used ampersand, NBSP, semicolon, then dollar, ampersand, dollar, semicolon, rupees, ampersand, hash, 20BX9, semicolon. Then similarly, we also saw representation of emojis using numbers. So those are the special symbols for which we use entity references to represent them. Now root element. Uh, Okay, if you have any question, please type. So root element. So in HTML, we saw that HTML element can be represented as an inverted tree structure, where there will be a single root element on top. So in HTML, it was HTML itself. So the tag name itself is HTML. So here, like in this example, this institute is the is the root element here. Okay, so question is entity reference is ampersand copy or it's complete element, only ampersand copy. So that is root element. Next is simple element. So simple element is any element whose content part is text, simple text. So that is simple element. So like in this example, name CTech Bangalore and closing name, or line 168 and closing line 1. Now second thing is complex element. So complex element are element whose content is another element. So like for address, its content is these elements itself. So it's not a plain text, rather it is another element. So address in our case is a complex element. What else is a complex element? Institute, because institute has name and address as their child. So these are called uh, complex element which contain another element as their content. Okay. Next thing is PC data. So what is PC data? So PC data is parsed character data. So any data that can be parsed by the um, parser, it is basically called PC data. So in fact, each and every data is a PC data in case of XML. Now, can there be only C data? So we'll see. Yes. Okay. So we already know that some of the this tags, like some of the symbols like this less than, greater than, these all are treated as a special symbol, and so to represent them we use entity references. Okay, so like for less than we use ampersand lt semicolon, for greater than we use ampersand gt semicolon. Now, suppose that you want to send one program from one server to another. Now, in this program, if you see, there will be a lot of these special symbols. Okay, so these special symbols are there. Like here itself, C in, C out. So this special symbols will be used. Now, if I convert it to special this entity reference, then it will be very difficult on the other hand, on the other side, to convert it to the original program. So that's why, and if I leave it alone, if I leave it in its original format, then the parser will say that this is not a valid XML. So it's not a parsed character data. I am unable to parse it because it represents something else. So that was the problem. So therefore, there is one tag in XML, which is C data, character data. So I can declare any data as character data, and inside this, I can write whatever I want to write. So our the XML parser will simply treat this data as it is. It won't parse the inside stuff. It will simply take the content and post it. So in that way, the parser won't give any error. So for any such data which has some special symbols, we do not use, and we do not want to use entity reference. We declare those data as C data, character data. So in that way, it won't be passed by the parser. So that is C data. Okay. So now this is some information, and we need to convert it to XML. Now, one way is that I create, so uh, one way is that I can add all information inside a single tag. Okay, so let us check this. So suppose I define a tag like imply, and inside that I can write everything like I know 68 ECT, then and so on. So in a single tag, I can keep adding information. Okay. Now, this is an XML element. I cannot say that, okay, this is not an XML element. It's there. But it defeats the purpose of making it a structured data. Fine. So if we really want to fetch information from there, it looks like an unstructured data. So it is difficult to get information from this data. So it's better that we convert it to in a more finer. We have to basically break this information into finer chunks. Now, if you do not understand this concept, then you must remember the normalization rule 1 of the database. So it also says that the data must be broken into individual columns, and so that its domain is well defined. Now same here, we also have to do it. So like instead of directly writing all the data in a single XML, we can convert it to like name. Now if we see this, it looks more structured than earlier part. So I have broken the information into individual. Uh, in fact, I can further break organization into name and location. Okay. So now whenever we are also creating uh, whenever we are also creating any data, so when converting data into XML, so our main aim should be to minimize the data as small as we can. So that is one way. Now, most of the time, when in practical situation, what do we need is that we have to send data from one system to another. Okay, so from one system to another, if I am sending data, so in that case, data will already be there in database. So it will be a table which will be already normalized. So all we have to do is convert it to XML. And for that, we can write small programs which will directly convert, and all these tags will be replaced with the column name. So in that way, we won't have to think of what tag should I keep and how finer should we break the data. So in that case, entire thing will be taken care by the already normalized table. Okay, Rishabh is asking, can we use same tag names in one XML file, like for location and locality? Um, have patience. Wait, I will cover everything. And in short, yes, we can do it. Okay, now, so this is how we can break data into um, XML. Now, further also we can other apart from this what I have shown you, we can add more information from this table. Okay. So with XML, there are two things. One thing is whether it is well formed or not. So there is not any syntactical error in the XML. So like starting tag is there, but ending tag is not there. So all that kind of thing can be taken care in the well-formedness of a XML. Now, second thing is XML validity. So now, any XML document, as you already know that we can add user-defined tags. So we can add any tag that we want. It need not to be from HTML bag of tags or any defined bag of tags. Okay, so that is well and good. But we also know that data has to travel on the link. So it has to travel from one source to another source. Now, once the data is going from one source to another source, and suppose in between someone adds some information in the XML. So he adds more tags, okay, or he removes some tags. Now, how do we know that the XML that we received at the other end is valid or not, whether it has been tampered or not? Okay. Now, for that, we check for XML validity. So to check for XML validity, there is another document which is prepared, which tells what will be the tags present in the XML. So it will basically tell you the structure of the XML, basic structure of the XML, so that you know that if any tag has been removed, or if any tag has been added, or if any even attribute has been removed or added, then you will know that, okay, this XML is not valid because it's a schema, or if it's a structure says that it should have this element which is not there, or it has an extra element. So that is XML validity. We'll see it today using DTD. So first we'll focus on the XML well-formedness. So first thing is a start tag should have a matching end tags. Okay. So if you are starting a tag, you must end a tag. Now, if you see in HTML, you start a div, inside you write like ing form input, and you do not close a div, still it will work. So it will parse the data. But if there are more tags, so maybe some layout issue will appear, or maybe some encroachment issue will appear. So one div may extend up to second div. Okay. So all those things may happen, but it will be displayed. It will be processed. It's not like it won't be processed. Now in XML, parser, it will be difficult for parser since all the tags are user defined. It's not existing tags that already parser knows. So therefore, well-formedness of a XML is quite necessary. And the first rule therefore says that starting tag should have matching end tags. So we should not miss the end tags. Second thing is tags should be non-overlapping. So what do you mean by non-overlapping means? So suppose I started one tag imply, and then I wrote name Anu, and then I closed imply first and name later. Okay. Now this is a overlapping tag because imply is starting from here to here, ends, and then it is overlapping with name. So there are two elements which are overlapping in this. So in a crisscross manner. So just like in programs, we have seen that for curly braces, whichever starts the last will be closed first. So same thing should be same thing should be followed here also. That whichever tag is started at the last, it should end first, and so on. So if we do that, then only a tag is well formed. Otherwise, it is not a well formed XML. Okay. So there should not be any overlapping. Now, third thing is there should be a single root element. Okay. So this, if we see this tag, this XML document, inside this, there is a single imply element. Now, suppose if I add one more imply and then add some information like name, and I add into this. Now, if we see this, it has two imply tags at the same level. So this is not a valid XML, because a valid XML, a well-formed XML should have only one root element. So if you want to make this valid or well-formed XML, then I will have to add a root element. I mean, and the name can be anything. It's not like it has to be root only. It's a user defined, so I can put anything. I can put root. Okay. So the main aim is to keep only a single root element inside the XML, so that it is a inverted tree structure when represented into the memory. Okay. So this is the next rule for well-informedness. And then XML naming rules apply. So what does it mean? That there are some rules using which you can define any XML tags. What should be the name of a XML tag? So there is a rule, there are few rules that you have to follow. So those rules you have to follow here. And finally, XML is case sensitive. So it means that uh, imply E capital and this imply a smaller closing, both are not same. So we should match them. If I write like this, it won't match. So therefore, if it's a case sensitive language, you should always maintain the case. Okay. Next. So next are XML naming rules. So first thing, we have already seen that names are case sensitive. Okay. So basically, if you are using uppercase or combination of uppercase and lowercase, so same should be maintained in the if you are using a start, so same thing should be maintained in the end tag as well. Okay, so other thing says it must start with a letter or underscore. Okay, so either use a letter or an underscore. It cannot start with um, anything like digit. You cannot write any name with digit. Next thing is it cannot start with XML. So XML is a reserved word. Okay, so you cannot use XML tag in any combination, whether in capital means uppercase, lowercase, or combo of lower upper. Nothing. It is not allowed. If you add XML as a tag, it will be invalid. Okay, naming rule. There is another thing that there should not be any spacing. So what does it mean? So if I write imply space info, this is an invalid tag because there is a spacing in between the name of the tag. So I can use underscore. So that will be a valid. But again, here also I'll have to change it. So there is no spacing is allowed inside this XML tag name. And then though it starts only with underscore or letter, in between it can contain letters, digits, hyphens, underscore, and period. Period is dot. So all those things it can contain. Okay. The next question is about attribute. So Now suppose this is our HTML, this is our XML. One attribute is user ID. User ID is suppose 1 2 3 4 5 6 and slash user ID. So this is one way that I can write it. Now I have another imply. Okay, so I have one imply for which I have added the user ID as a element. Now for the second one, I am adding user ID as an attribute. Now the question is that which way is correct? So should I have used the user ID as a element or should I use it as a attribute? So that is the question. So um, can some elements be represented as an attribute or it will be represented as a element? So to answer this, we will start with some of the small things. So first small thing is that if any element, uh, if any information is multiple times, so like mobile number, so there may be many mobile number. Okay, so we simply repeat the tag. So we only repeat the tag. Remember, I have seen students doing this many a times. For the first mobile, they will write mobile 1. For the second mobile, they will write mobile 2. No, it's mobile. Whether 888 or 999, it's a mobile number. So every time I will repeat the tag. I won't use mobile 1, mobile 2, mobile 3. Remember this. It's similar to in the database. Have you seen in the database multi-valued attribute? Okay. So suppose that I have a database. Multi-valued attributes means one thing, user ID, can have multiple mobiles. So one user can have multiple mobiles. Now for that multi-valued attribute in the database, what do we do? So basically we uh, create multiple rows for this information. So like 1000 mobile number 888, 1000 mobile number 9999. Okay. So we do not change the columns. So we only keep adding rows. We do not write like user ID, then user ID mobile one is an one column and mobile 2 is another column. We do not add columns. We keep adding rows. So user, and it will be in a new tables. So user ID mobiles will keep adding rows, not columns. We do not add mobile 1, mobile 2, mobile 3, mobile 4. Why do we do that? Because if we suppose I do not know what will be the maximum number of mobile anyone can have. I mean, I myself have 4 mobile numbers. Okay. So in that case, and someone may have only one mobile number. So if I keep adding mobile, suppose mobile 1 to mobile 10 and many people have only one or two mobile, in that case others will remain vacant. So therefore, as per normalization rule also, for any multi-valued attribute, we add rows, we do not add columns. We make a separate table for multi-valued attributes. The same way here also. If a user has any multi-valued attributes, like this mobile number here, we repeat the tag. We do not add a new tag for each element, mobile 1, mobile 2, mobile 3. We repeat the tag. Mobile will be repeated multiple times. Okay. So this, if this is understood, then next thing is that any multi-valued attribute, any multi-valued thing, information, data, it cannot be added as a attribute. Okay, because attribute cannot be repeated. So like if I write id equal to 1 2 3 4, and then again I write id equal to 4 5 6, then it's an invalid thing, because attributes cannot be repeated, and this is a repetition of attribute. So therefore, any multi-valued data like mobile number, this cannot be put as a attribute. So this we know for sure. Now, second thing is, um, some information is for user and some information is for internal purpose. Okay, so like in table, if you see the primary key which we keep, like user id 1 2 3 4 5 6, that is not for the consumption of the user. It is not for user. It is basically for the means it's for the business to maintain a user id internally for tracking the users. It's like a primary key for tracking individual users. So in that case, any such primary key should be added as a attribute. Ideally, it's not a rule, it's ideal. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 should ideally go there instead of writing as an element. Okay. So any primary key which is not meant for the user display should be added as an attribute. Now one more thing. So, like first I have written name, then mobile, then address, then designation, then organization. Now this order is preserved. It's important to understand. The order is always preserved. Preserved means the same order should be followed. But there is no ordering in the imply, sorry, in attribute. So HTML also, if you see, if you write first paragraph, then image, then link, it will come in the same order. But if you write in HTML, first style you write, then ID you write, then input type equal to text you write, any order you can write the attributes. Will that change the look? No. But if you change the order of the tags, like writing image before the paragraph, or writing anchor before a break tag. So all those things will change the structure of the document. But changing the order of the attribute, it never matters. So whether you write user ID equal to 1 2 3 4 5 6 first, and organization equal to CDEC last, it doesn't matter. So this is another important point. And of course, attributes take less space than the tag itself, because in the element we have a starting tag and an ending tag, but for attributes it's like key pair, key value pair. So key equal to value. So it takes more space. So so basically, what is the takeaway? So important takeaway is that yes, it's dependent on the developer. So he can write any element using as a attribute, or he can leave it as an element itself. But of course, few rules will apply. So like multi-valued data cannot be added as an attribute, because attribute, we cannot have more than one attribute of the same type. Then the order of attribute doesn't matter, but the order of elements matter. So keep that also in mind while you are uh, taking one as an attribute and one as an element. Now, entity references. So we already have talked about this, that for representation of symbols which are like special here, like less than symbol, quotation marks, uh, apostrophe, ampersand, all those things. For that, we use a special characters. So those are called entity reference, which will start from ampersand, end with semicolon, and in between some text will be there. So like less than ampersand LT semicolon, greater than ampersand GT semicolon. For ampersand itself, we have to write ampersand AMP semicolon. For apostrophe, means the single quote, we write APOS. And for double quote, we use quote, ampersand quote semicolon, and so on. So it's not like it's limited to only these special entity references. There are many. Okay, Monica is asking, mobile attribute is repeated. Where have I repeat? Yeah, mobile is repeated. That's why I did not add it as a attribute. I'm not adding it as an attribute. I am keeping it as a is as an element. Okay. One question is, are duplicates allowed in element attributes? Yes, we have already no. As an attribute, no, but as an element, yes. So I cannot repeat organization equal to CDEC and then organization equal to Tata, but I can repeat element. So mobile 888 and mobile 999. I can repeat elements as many times as I want. But I cannot repeat the attribute. This is the attribute, this is the element. Now, so next thing is namespaces. So basically, this is a example of an XML in which there is a person tag, and in the person name is there, title, sir, first name, middle name, last name. Okay, and then position, and then resume is written in form of a HTML document. Okay, now if you see here title in the HTML element title, so it's right, it's a resume of John Doe, but here the title is sir. It may be doctor, it may be Mr., Mrs., something. Now the question is that once a parser start parsing the this XML, it will be confused whether this title and this title have the same meaning. Okay, so that is the question, that whether how to differentiate between this title, because first title is like an honorary for the person, whereas second title is a title of the HTML page. So how do we bifurcate it? Now, same question earlier, I think Rishabh had asked for location. Can we repeat location? So namespace is basically, it is used for avoiding named classes. And what it is, it's a bag of names. Okay. So basically it's like a vocabulary. So in the vocabulary, we will keep a list of tags that only these tags are allowed. You can pick any from there. Okay. Now it can be used as a prefix to element name. So I can add here like for title, I can add as a prefix that this title belongs to maybe W3C bag or W3C namespace, but this title belongs to person namespace, something like that. And next part is namespace prefix can be explicit or set to a default value. Now let us see the, so problem you would understand would that some tags, if they are repeated and have different meaning, then how to resolve this problem. Now to resolve this problem, we uses namespace. Namespace are nothing but a bag of tags or names from which can be used um, for bifurcating the common name title, common name tags. So how to use that? So for that we use XML NS. So XML NS is XML namespace, and then we write the name of the um, and then we write the name of the uh, namespace. Okay, so I can show here or I can type. So basically, any namespace, it is declared inside the root element. Okay, so let us. So suppose there is a person, and I am for this person I am declaring a XML namespace, and I will give the XML namespace as suppose PERS person, and then I have to put the URI where this namespace is located. So suppose http colon cdac.in/person. This is the URI. So this is one namespace. And similarly, I have to add another namespace. So XML NS colon and web equal to http w3c.org/web. Suppose this is the URI. This may not be the correct URI, just for demo purpose. Now after that, any tag we use, like suppose I use name, then I have to write whether this name belongs to PERS or whether it belongs to web. Which namespace does it belong to? So suppose name is belonging to person. So I will write here name person. And then ending should also happen in the same way, person colon name, and then in between I will write the value. And then suppose I write person pers colon resume, and inside this I have to write resume in the form of HTML. So for that I will use web, because HTML is part of the web. So HTML and web HTML, and then inside this suppose web colon head and web colon head. So I'm closing the head, and inside that now I'm writing web colon title. So it means that this title is not the person's title, rather it is the website title. And then I can write resume of Anup. Title, me change here. And so on. So in this way, I can keep adding elements along with, but I also have to specify each tag, where does it belong? So it may be belonging to either of the namespace, either from web or from the person. So everything is done. Only thing is, first I have to close the person tag. And second thing is, this person tag, the root tag itself should belong to one or the other namespace. So this person is belonging to pers. So it should be pers colon person. Okay. So how do we define a namespace? So we write XML NS in the root element. Remember, it should be in the root element. So XML NS colon, and then whatever name I want to write. But the URI also I should write. And same way here also XML NS web and the URI. And then each element, they will be prefixed with the name of the namespace from where they belong. So for like this title, I have written pers. For this title, I have written web. So in that way, there is a bifurcation. Last thing, for root also, we need to define that the root element belongs to which uh, namespace. So for that also, I have written the namespace. Is it clear? How do we declare a namespace? So URI basically tells you where is that namespace located. Okay, so I simply write a namespace like namespace web, then it is difficult to understand that what tags are available in this web. So we usually define a URI where the namespace is located. So here also the same way that I explained, same way here also it is written. So every tag will start with the namespace prefix, and then even the root element should be defined whether it belongs to pers or whether it belongs to HTML. In my case, I wrote web. Now, next thing is a default namespace. Okay, so if we do, even if we do not have a class, so like here there was a class between this title and this title. So if we do not have a class, still we can declare a namespace. So for that, we simply write like person and XML namespace. So here you can see that we do not write the prefix, postfix, suffix. We do not write the suffix because there is only a single namespace. So we do not need to write the name of the namespace. So we simply write XML NS equal to http colon cdac dot in slash like person. And since this is the default or the only namespace, so we do not need to add the prefix, neither prefix nor suffix, because only one is there. So there is no ambiguation. Okay, so this is the default namespace. So I can declare a default namespace using XML NS. This is the only namespace. And since this is the only namespace, we do not need to define the prefix or nor do we need to define the name of the namespace. So this is called default namespace. Okay. So next part is how do we parse a XML document? Now, one method we have already seen. So for for parsing any markup language based document like we saw in HTML, one method is called document object modeling. So in which and XML, or basically in our case, the HTML document was converted to an inverted tree structure and basically called a document, and using different functions like document.getElement by tag name, getElement by class, by ID. So different methods were there to access individual elements and then change their properties, display, CSS attributes, anything. So that was one way of doing this. Now, so what does it do is it loads the entire XML document in this method, the DOM method. It will load the entire XML element as a tree into the memory. And then after that, there are APIs available to traverse the tree. So read, write, create, edit, modify, delete, everything. Now, it is not heavily used. So why so? Because you can see that the first thing is that it loads the entire XML document as a tree into the memory. So if you have a limited memory and XML document is very large, so in that case, it will be difficult to it will be difficult to parse the document. In fact, it will be difficult to even load the document into memory. So therefore, this method will only work if you have a balance of memory versus the size of your XML document. Okay, so if your XML document size is less than the memory size, then it will work, otherwise it will fail. Now, so this example also we have seen that there will be a root element, and then there are child nodes, and we can access all the child nodes using either those methods like document element by tag name or class ID, or even we have relations like parent, children, ancestor, descendant. So using those relations, also siblings. So using those relationships also we can try to access the elements. Now we'll see tomorrow the example how do we access it using PSP. So this is DOM example. Now a second API parser is SAX, which is simple API for XML, and it's a event-driven programming interface. So what do you mean by event-driven? So we have already seen events in case of HTML, like on click, then on double click, on mouse out, on key up, on key down, on mouse over. So lot many events were there in HTML. And on each event, I can write some function that if someone has clicked, do this. If someone has double clicked, do that, and so on. Now, all those things will only so similarly here also in the simple API for XML, what do we do is that there are predefined events, and then there is on that event what action can be performed that the user need to write. Okay, so parcel will simply fire the events and call the functions, and in that function whatever code you write that will be executed. So you have to need the write the basically handlers for different elements. Now there cannot be a common there cannot be a common SAX parser for every XML element, because every XML element will have different structure and different user defined tag. But for a specific element, so like imply data, even if the data changes but the format remains the same, the layout remains the same, you can write one single XML parser and it will work. And it doesn't load the entire XML into the memory. So like what kind of events are there? So like this, uh, it has started reading the document. So start document, end document, start element, end element. Characters are basically in between the content of from one tag to another tag, between starting to ending tag. Then similarly, there are ignorable white spaces, script entity, processing instruction, start prefix mapping, end prefix mapping, and set document locator. So these are the most important basically documents, sorry, events, which can be captured. And on the handling part, we need to write the action, what has to be performed. Now, if we go to browser, let's parser Java.
So can you please repeat the last slide of parsing document object model? It's quite confusing, if possible.
What is confusing?
So in the yeah, the next slide, 25. Yeah, so in this SAX, so and the parser fire event, sir, these event-driven program and parser fire events are the same or not?
Yeah, event driven program means event will be executed, event will happen, and who will start the event? Basically parser. So once the parser start reading the document, parsing the document, basically it will throw some event. So like once it reads the start tag, it will throw an event. Once it ends the start in the tag, it will throw an event. Now on that event there are, can you let me complete using this? You will see here. So
Okay, sir.
like this is one end element function. So end element has come, and or this is a character function. It means it has read the character. So what has to be done on that, you have to write. So these are predefined functions. All you have to do is in between what you have to do, that code you have to write. Now, for example, let me, now I will take a simple example. And then I will refer to two functions. Basically, one is the start element, and then another one is end element, start element, end element, and then characters. So we'll focus on only these three events. Now, so for this imply, suppose I create a class imply, This is not the actual programming, remember, this is just for demo. Uh, Suppose one is string name, is your age. Okay. Now, so first thing is that what I will do is one by one I will start reading the tags. Okay, and once I start reading the tags, uh, the events will be thrown, and that on that event I have to write the code. Okay, now let us see the example. So once the implied tag is read, what should I do? So this start element will be called, because this is the starting of the element, start tag basically. So what should I do? So now I do not know whether this tag is imply or name or age. Okay, so in that case I have to use a either switch statement or a if statement. So if you see here also, they are checking that whether Q name is a student or roll number or first name or last name or nickname, whatever. So similarly here also I have to check that, in fact I can put it into a switch. So switch and Q name is imply. So suppose it is an imply. So what I have to do? So basically, if an imply tag is read, it means now I have to start saving the imply data. So the first should be to create a object of the imply tag. Not sorry, imply class. Okay, break. So if the tag that I have read imply, it's a if it is a uh, sorry, this tag is, if it is a imply, then first thing is I have to declare an object of this class imply, because after that only I can save the name and age. So first I have to instantiate a object. Second case, second case is suppose it's a name. Don't do anything. Suppose it's a age. Then again, don't do anything, because name and age are data members. They are not classes that I have to declare their object. Done. So this is for the start element, and only three elements are there: implied, name, and age. So only three cases can be there. Now, characters. So characters, if you see here, so in characters, what does it do is it's basically it will save the value. So suppose that I create some variable like val. Uh, String val. So in the character, I will basically I will try to save this val equal to, and whatever this character set is there, ch. So this character set basically I am saving into this val. That's all. Now third thing is I have to read the end element. Now again there will be switch case. Now switch case, if name is there, okay, and this is the end element. So if I am reading the name as an end element, it means I have already read the content. So I have already read the content. It means these characters have already been executed. So it means value contains the this thing, Anu. Let me repeat. I am going for the end element. Now end element is, suppose end element is name. So since end element is name, so before that this has already been read. So this has already been read. It means this this event has been thrown. And if this event was thrown, value contains the content of the name tag. So what I can do is I can set object dot object dot name equal to val. And similarly for age also it will be the same thing. Object, sorry, it's a start element now. I have to write an end element. So for name, object dot name equal to val, and object dot age equal to val. And so when I read end tag of name, so I already knew that, okay, this has been read. And if it has been read, where it is stored? In val, because while reading, I am storing the value into val. So in that case, I will save object dot name equal to val. And similarly, if I have reached the end age, it means this value has already been read. And if it has been read, it will be saved in val again. So that's why again object dot age equal to val. And finally, I reach here, imply. So in the tag of imply, it means I have read already name, I have already read age. So all I need to do is save. So object dot save, something like that. So this is this example is so disclaimer. First disclaimer: this is not for any particular programming language. Do not say that this is Java and this syntax is wrong, that syntax is wrong. This is for only the demonstration purpose to understand that how can we parse an XML element. So most of the time our work will be done by a start element, end element, and the characters. These three events itself will be sufficient. Now for each XML element, I can declare a class, and once I start reading the tag, so tags can be either imply or name or age, because only three type of tags are there in this document. If there are more tags, so we'll have to write more cases here. Now, if I'm reading imply, so it means that I have just started, so I should declare an object of the imply. If I am reading name, no need to do anything. If I'm reading is, no need to do anything, because these are not classes. I do not require an object for that. Now, for reading the characters, all I need to is store this value. The whatever character I have read, I should store this value somewhere. Now, if I am reading the end element, so suppose if it is a if it is a name tag and I am reading slash name, because this is the end element, it means value has already been captured. I read this, then I read this, then I reached here. So if I reached here, it means value has already been read and it has been stored into val by this line. So all I need to do is I have to save object.name equal to val and object.age equal to val again. And once I reach the end of the imply, it means already name and age has been saved. So all I need to do is call the save function in the object to save it into database. So this is just for a small example, just for understanding how the event-driven parser works. So I will recommend you to like use this kind of document, XML document, and write a parser for yourself. Now you can download a sample parser from online in Java, and then you can change the content, the basically the the functions uh, handlers you can you can change as per your XML document. Okay, so let's back here. Okay, so where do we use this XML? So Okay, break. Bye bye.